As we speak, the world is looking on in anticipation, and we, the Jewish world, in trepidation, as events continue to unfold in Egypt. Over the past 30 years, a cold peace has existed between Egypt and Israel, and in fact my wife and I had the opportunity just last year to actually go and visit Egypt, which was enthralling for its ancient history and for the part that it played in our history. It was really a unique experience. Whether one will have the opportunity in the future is yet to be seen. But as events continue to unfold, there's a growing sense of concern, at the very least, as the possibility and the potential of organizations such as the Muslim Brotherhood becoming very significant role players in the future of Egypt. Just the other day I heard on MSNBC an interview with one of the leaders of the revolution, if you will call it that, where they were asked whether there was a ironclad guarantee that the peace between Egypt and Israel will continue. And whilst the individual said yes, he then said, as long as, it's almost yes, but, as long as Israel does X, Y, and Z, there will be a peace. And obviously the interviewer said, we hear equivocation. And I think that sense that the future is very precarious as far as the relationship between Israel and Egypt is concerned is very real, not only for the people of Israel, but for every single concerned Jew the world over. And I think in some ways, this week's parasha perhaps can give us a little bit of a glimpse, a little bit of an insight as to how we can play a role in ensuring the security of our people, and perhaps looking at it from a slightly different angle, which will give us a little bit more hope for the future. The parasha this week actually deals with, in the main, the various garments that were worn by the Kohanim, the priests, specifically also the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. The Kohen Gadol had, apart from the 4 regular garments that were worn by the average Kohen, 4 extra garments, each of which was very ornate, beautifully adorned with gold, something quite remarkable. One of the things that he wore was known as the Choshen, and I have here a little diagram. I hope you can see it. This here is the Kohen in all of his regalia, the extra head plate across the head, the apron, the blue tunic which had bells and various different things on it, as well as the Choshen, the breastplate. The breastplate had certain remarkable facets to it. One of the remarkable facets was that it was the way in which God was able to communicate with the Jewish people through the Kohen. The breastplate, as you can see over here, had 12 stones. On each one of these stones was written the name of the tribe. It was then folded over. You can see over here, it was 2 squares. It was folded over and attached both on top and at the bottom, because the concern was that the Choshen, this breastplate that carried on it the 12 names of the tribes of Israel, would flap away, would move from the chest as the Kohen Gadol walked. So apart from being attached on both shoulders, it was also attached around the waist to the ephod, to the apron, and in that way, v'lo yizach hachoshen me'al ha'ephod, the Choshen will not move away and will not become detached, will not move away from the chest. And I think in this there's a symbolism as well. As I mentioned, on these 12 stones were the 12 tribes of Israel, reflecting each and every one of us, every single Jew that existed then, that exists today, and all the time in between and all the time in the future, was incorporated within that Choshen. The Kohen Gadol, as the conduit of communication between the Jewish people and God, and vice versa between God and the Jewish people, represented not only in his own personal behavior, but indeed in these garments as well, the key to this continued connection between man and God, between the Jew and our Father in heaven. And these 12 stones, as I mentioned, had to always be against the chest, against the heart. And the symbolism of that clearly is that the 12 tribes of Israel, the Jewish people, are constantly close, constantly attached to God's heart. Never forgotten, never ignored, never overlooked, even at times of tremendous difficulty and trepidation. V'lo yizach hachoshen, the choshen, the breastplate which carried with it the 12 tribes of Israel, never moves and never departs from the heart of God. Furthermore, it was critically important that all 12 of those stones be present. And the Talmud recounts stories of the extent to which the rabbis and the people went to secure a 12th stone when one was lost. Because if one of those stones is missing, then the garment is no longer complete. There's an automatic severance between the Jewish people and our Father in heaven. The unity of our people, the unity of the Jewish nation is critical in order to secure and to maintain the closeness of our heart to God and of God's heart to the Jewish people. And therefore, at times like this, where the future is certainly uncertain, we need to understand that it is our unity as a nation that will ensure and will continue to make God's glance on the Jewish people be a positive one, a loving one, a uniting one. For the past 30 years, we've been privileged, Baruch Hashem, that the Jewish people have known no wars against our enemies, against the Egyptian people, who previously had been the enemy of our people and who had fought bloody battles against us. And for 30 years, we have hung our security not in God possibly, but in that document, in that agreement which was forged those 30 years ago between Anwar Sadat and Havdil Menachem Begin, alav shalom. And we had a sense of security in that. And all of a sudden, as we see events unfolding, as I mentioned, we're less secure. There's a certain sense of concern what the future holds. And I think here too we have to look to the holy book of Tehillim to seek God's counsel as to how we are supposed to view times like this. King David writes in Tehillim, Al tivtechu b'nedivim beven adam she'ein lo teshua. Do not place your trust in nobles, nor in mortal man who has not the ability to bring deliverance. And for 30 years perhaps we have trusted and put our faith in that peace. Please God, may it continue. We have put a faith in our allies, in other nations, that would ensure the continued security of the state of Israel and the people of Israel, specifically with its southern borders and southern neighbors. And all of a sudden we're starting to see that that is less than guaranteed. And we start to realize that to have hope, obviously, in the United Nations is futile. It is indeed futile to have the same hope with our ally America. And perhaps even that noble declaration of peace that was made 30 years ago is also not something that we should hang all our hope and all our faith and our confidence in. Please God, whatever happens in Egypt will herald further connection to our Father in heaven and our protection for the world to come.